The US government is in a race against an invisible enemy. An enemy that doesn't sleep, doesn't need to eat, and can check a billion locks in the time it takes you to find your keys. That enemy is artificial intelligence, and it has learned to hunt. In response, on June 12, 2024, the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, issued an emergency directive. Federal agencies were given a new deadline to fix the most critical security flaws in their networks. 72 hours. Not weeks, not days, 72 hours. This is the story of a decision born from desperation, a desperate attempt to outrun a catastrophe that is moving faster than any human possibly can. For decades, cyber warfare was a human endeavor. A team of hackers, sponsored by a state or a criminal group, would spend months searching for a single crack in a system's defenses. They had to be patient, clever, and lucky. That era is over. The new attacker is an AI agent, a piece of code turned loose on the internet with a simple objective: find a way in. It doesn't get bored. It doesn't need a budget. It can test millions of known vulnerabilities against every government server in the world, simultaneously. It's the difference between a single burglar trying your front door, and an autonomous swarm of a million microscopic lockpicks testing every window, pipe, and hairline crack in your foundation at the exact same moment. But here is the part they tried to hide. This isn't a future threat, it's a present reality. This fundamental shift from human speed to machine speed changes the very nature of defense. Previously, a newly discovered vulnerability, a zero-day, offered a grace period. Security researchers might find a flaw, report it. Developers weeks or even months to create and deploy a patch before it became widely known to hostile actors. That grace period has now collapsed to hours, or even minutes. AI-powered scanning tools, some available in open source, can take the technical description of a new bug and almost instantly weaponize it, creating an automated exploit. The moment a flaw is known to exist, it is already being used to attack. The defenders are playing a game where the opponent moves 1,000 times faster. This is the reality that forced the hand of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. CISA operates as the nation's risk advisor, the central command for defending America's digital and physical infrastructure. On June 12, 2024, they activated Emergency Directive 24-02. The language was precise and stark. For the most severe class of vulnerabilities, those actively being exploited in the wild, federal civilian agencies now had just 72 hours from the moment of discovery to fix the problem. For other critical bugs, the deadline was 7 days. The age of ponderous, bureaucratic patching cycles was declared over. The 72-hour clock had started, and it would not stop. An unnamed CISA official, speaking to Wired magazine, laid the stakes bare with a single sentence: defenders cannot afford to take weeks to patch. This directive is an admission of a terrifying truth. The old model of defense is broken. Imagine telling a sprawling organization like the Department of Veterans Affairs or the Social Security Administration, with thousands of servers and decades of legacy code, that they have 3 days to overhaul a critical piece of their digital foundation. It's like ordering the crew of a World War I-era battleship to perform open-heart surgery on the engine while it's in the middle of a naval battle. This is where it gets disturbing. The directive isn't just a new rule, it's a signal that the government knows it is already behind. So what is actually at stake? This isn't about stolen emails or embarrassing leaks. The infrastructure CISA is tasked with is the bedrock of modern life. We're talking about the power grid that keeps your lights on, the water treatment facilities that ensure what comes out of your tap is safe to drink, the air traffic control systems that manage 45,000 flights a day, the financial networks that process trillions of dollars in daily transactions. These systems are not abstract concepts. They are complex, often aging, industrial machines that are now connected to the internet. An AI-discovered flaw in one of these networks isn't a data breach, it's a potential blackout, a contaminated water supply, a grounded national airline fleet. It is a physical catastrophe triggered by a digital key. The real vulnerability isn't just one bug, it's a concept engineers call technical debt. For decades, government agencies have built layer upon layer of software. New systems were placed on top of old ones, quick fixes were implemented to meet deadlines, and security was often an afterthought. The result is a fragile, incomprehensibly complex digital ecosystem. It's a glass house built on a foundation of sand. The AI attacker isn't looking for a sophisticated, movie plot weakness. It's looking for a single window that was left unlocked 10 years ago, a default password that was never changed, a software library that no one remembered to update. And in a system this complex, there are millions of such windows. The problem isn't finding one, the problem is that they are everywhere. What does one of these critical bugs actually look like? It's rarely a brilliant, complex piece of malicious code. More often, it's a stunningly simple oversight. A 2021 report from the Government Accountability Office found federal agencies failing at basic cyber hygiene, things like properly managing encryption keys or ensuring software was up to date. The vulnerabilities AI excels at finding are mundane. A programmer forgets to add a single line of code that checks if a user is an administrator. A server is installed with a default password like admin or password, and no one ever changes it. An open-source component, used in thousands of applications, has a known flaw from 2017, but no one has run the update. This is the AI's superpower. It has no bias. A human analyst might look for a clever, novel entry point. An AI simply checks everything. It systematically tests every port, every login page, every piece of code against a library of millions of known mistakes. It doesn't care if the mistake is stupid or obvious. It only cares if it works. This relentless, automated auditing exposes a human weakness we have institutionalized for decades: the tendency to ignore boring, routine maintenance in favor of building new things. For years, the sheer scale of government networks made a full audit impossible. Now, AI can do it in an afternoon. But it's not just our AIs doing it, it's theirs, too. The 72-hour deadline creates a state of perpetual, high-stakes crisis within these agencies. When CISA's alert goes out, a war begins. IT departments are thrown into a frantic scramble, pulling engineers off other projects to hunt down a single vulnerability inside a labyrinth of code they may not have written or even understand. They have to identify the affected systems, develop or acquire a patch, test it to make sure the fix doesn't break something else, and deploy it across potentially thousands of machines. All while their adversary, the AI, is working against them, tirelessly and automatically, trying to exploit that very same flaw before the clock runs out. It's a race between human bureaucracy and machine logic. This new reality forces an uncomfortable question. The only way to effectively fight an automated, AI-powered attacker is with an automated, AI-powered defender. This leads us directly into a new kind of arms race, one fought in milliseconds by autonomous agents in the heart of our own critical infrastructure. The goal is to have your AI find and fix the flaw before their AI can find and exploit it. But what happens when these defensive AIs make a mistake? What happens when a fix accidentally takes a power grid offline or corrupts a financial database? We are building autonomous weapons and setting them loose in our own house, hoping they only shoot at the intruders. Here is the final, chilling revelation. The 72-hour directive is not a temporary measure to solve a specific crisis. It is the beginning of the new normal. CISA's action is an acknowledgement that we have entered an era of permanent, high-speed digital siege. The cycle of flaw discovered, alert sent, 72-hour scramble will now be a constant, unending feature of our national security. But this system is designed for a catastrophic failure. It assumes that every critical flaw can be fixed in 72 hours. What happens when one is found in a core piece of legacy hardware, like a dam control system, that requires physical replacement? What happens when the fix requires taking a hospital's network offline for 4 days? The 72-hour rule has no answer for that. It is a finger in a dike that is cracking in 1,000 places at once. The true catastrophe isn't a single hack. It's the moment the rate of AI-driven vulnerability discovery permanently outpaces humanity's ability to respond. CISA's directive is the sounding of an alarm that has been ringing, unheeded, for years. We built our modern world on a foundation of code we barely understood, and now, something has arrived that understands it far better and faster than we do. If you want to understand the last time a single software error led to a global catastrophe, you need to know about the 2012 Night Capitol glitch, where a deployment error by one engineer cost a company $440 million in just 45 minutes, and nearly broke the stock market. Click the video on your screen to see that story. And if you want to understand the hidden engineering failures that define our world, subscribe to Lost Glyph. If a hostile AI can find these flaws, should governments be using their own AIs to find and fix them first? Or is an AI arms race itself the even greater disaster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.